Why is it that British workers are now taking more days off sick than any time in the last 15 years, particularly when we are told that actually work from home is making sick days less common among the people that are able to work from home? The report from the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development says staff have taken an average of almost 2 full working weeks off because of illness over the past 12 months. That is an increase from just over a week before the pandemic. It means that 4.1% of work time is now lost to sick days. That is a figure also far higher than at any point in the past 15 years. And it turns out that the analysis suggests that while sick days have increased in all sectors, they are most prevalent in the public sector, where they average 13.3 days compared with 9.1 days in the private sector, the public sector making up just 16% of the total workforce. Why might that be? Is it just much harder in the public sector? There is no expense account that you can put your nice lunch on, for example, or it's just more stressful because there is no money there. It's an older age group, so you're more likely to get unwell. Or is it because you know you can get away with it much more easily and there isn't really a culture there of presenteeism, of what was once called coming into work? By the way, 1 million more people are now claiming personal independence payments than before the pandemic, with, as you know, mental health sickness now the leading cause behind that rise, according to the DWP. In this survey, stress was found to be a significant factor in both short and long-term workplace absences. 41% of employers reported stress-related absences when they were surveyed. So there will be a proportion of you listening who have done what I did in the past, and you chucked in a sickie because you were in a job you didn't like and you had sick pay and you could probably get away with it. These days, I don't have any sick pay, so no days off sick. Is it a case of a change in what you self-diagnosed as ill health? You don't quite feel right, or you feel a bit stressed, so now you're taking the day off. Basically, the tolerance barrier to any sort of mishap, physical ailment, mental ailment, that is now so much lower than it was 15 years ago that it means so many more people are taking time off work. Why is this happening? And do you think it's because of a change of what counts as ill health? Or, you know, that we have a bloated public sector where people don't have very much to do, so it's okay if they chuck in more sick days because no one will really notice and it doesn't matter. Anyway, that is the cynic's interpretation. Why is this happening? 0345 6060 973. Let us turn to Maddy Alexander-Grout, who is an ADHD money and business coach who has been dubbed a sickfluencer. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme, Maddy. Can we talk about you to start off with? Tell us how you got into this and what this is.
Yeah, of course. So I trained as a neurodiversity specialist about 3 years ago. I help people with businesses, people without businesses, to basically understand their brains so that they can move forward in their lives, because neurodivergent conditions are quite limiting sometimes. So especially when it comes to money and business, things like ADHD tax, impulse spending. And I have my own personal journey. So I previously was in £40,000 of debt twice. I know that sounds a little bit funny, really, for somebody who's a money specialist, but I learnt my own ways of paying it all off. I started a TikTok account, and basically it was all about just showing up and being really honest about my life and how I was living it.
Yes.
And I became so visible that I ended up landing a book deal, which was pretty cool.
And you have a medical diagnosis for ADHD?
I do, yes.
So that is the contributing reason, you say, for the initial problems with money, and then helping people into working a way through life that allows them to manage that rather better.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I talk quite openly in the press about my life, my experiences, like how things have shown up for me. And one of the things that I help people with is a government-funded grant system called Access to Work.
Yes.
And it's something which is a very, very well-kept government secret. They don't want us to have it.
Well, I mean, tell that to the £258 million worth that got spent in the last financial year, up 40% from 2022-2023.
I mean, there are a lot of people who are still not getting the support and the access that they are entitled to. And this is why I talk about it really openly on TikTok. So the sickfluencer label that the press very kindly delivered to me back in January, that was basically them saying, oh, look at this lady. She's very inconveniently telling everybody how they can get help from the government.
Yes.
When really all I'm doing is telling people about the help and support that they're entitled to.
So let's talk about that.
Long-term disabilities.
This is a scheme called Access to Work that was first introduced, I read, in 1994 to make working life easier, specifically for disabled people, particularly people with who were deaf or blind, helping to provide special equipment as well as practical support, including sign language interpreters. I note that now, as part of the 67,000 payment approvals in the last financial year, 22,000 of them were cited because of mental health. That is a massive, massive increase. So what do people get if they have ADHD and they apply to Access to Work?
So, I mean, it's very dependent on how your symptoms present, really. But you can access things like coaching. You can access support workers, job aids, assistive technology, even support with things like travel.
And what do you mind me asking what you have access through applying for this?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm on my third year now of applying. So I'm self-employed. I run my own business. You have to meet a minimum financial threshold to be able to access this grant. So that's £6,400 a year. But with my grant, I get support workers to help me within my business. I get coaching. I've had assistive technology. I'm also dyslexic. I'm also autistic. I have a very, very long list of hidden conditions. Right. So you might look at me and think she looks fine. It's all up here. So
this Access to Work provides you with the support worker and the coaching, or gives you cash to be able to do that?
No, so it's a common misconception, actually. Access to Work pays for you to have the support. It doesn't pay for you to have the cash. You do not get the access to it in your bank account. You never see a penny of it in physical cash. It's all delegated in support to help you to... And it's not to help you to grow, it's to help you to function.
Do you have to specify, I need a support worker, I need a coach, I need assistive technology, which could be, I think, smartwatches and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so what happens is they will do a workplace assessment. So somebody who is trained, somebody from the DWP will assess your conditions to see what support you need. So it's not something that they give lightly, and people do get declined for support all the time. And
this is Access to Work?
Access to Work. It is a government-funded grant to help people to stay in the workplace so that they can contribute to society.
And what is your workplace?
So my workplace at the moment is my bedroom.
Right.
But I, as a job, I'm an ADHD coach. I help people with business and money. I'm an author, a speaker, and also somebody who appears on shows like this talking about the thing that I love, which is ADHD. Because
so the taxpayer pays for support workers, coaching, and assistive technology to help you do this job, which is run your business. I see to the tune of £56,000.
That's what I got granted last year. Yes.
And that paid for a support worker to do what?
Admin tasks, basically, within my business. So when you have ADHD, you struggle with...
your tax return and P60s and all that business?
Yeah, so admin, kind of checking emails for spelling mistakes, because, when you're dyslexic, that happens a lot.
Yes, there are computer programs that do that, though.
There are, but there's nothing like human support to actually ensure that you do things.
Sorry,
my Grammarly's not going to tell me to send an email.
No. So this is essentially, if you don't mind me putting it like this is hiring someone on the state to help you run your business, whether it's an accountant or a PA or something. My listeners are currently paying for a worker hired by them to help you run your business that you say they tell you to send emails or help you in spelling in those emails.
I mean, it's a lot more than that. It's day-to-day running and support so that I can actually show up to work. Because without that support, I would be on benefits. I wouldn't be able to contribute to society. So we can't win, really, Tom. Like what I'm saying is, if we get the benefit, we are able to work. We're able as disabled people to show up. But then disabled people get.
But there are lots of people with ADHD.
There are, yes, and lots of them are unemployed.
Who do not. Who are working now, and so therefore do not require, it would seem on the face of it, a support worker, coaching assisted technology to the tune of £56,000 a year to get access to work. They're in work.
But they might not be able to function properly within their workplace. So what it's about helping people. And it's not just self-employed people, it's people in the workplace. Before you were talking about all of these sick days that people are having. It's because a lot of workplaces don't understand neurodiversity. They don't understand how people's brains work, so therefore they're not supporting them in the right way. And that means that actually it's a real struggle.
But not
for them
all people with ADHD's brains work in the same way.
No, they don't. They really don't.
So how is any, the broad sweep of understanding about people with ADHD's brains might be impossible because everybody's different?
Absolutely, which is why implementing things in workplaces to support people who are disabled or neurodivergent is really super important, because every single last person has different accommodations that they need. That's why you get a workplace assessment. That's why they assess what conditions you have and the support you need, because the support is different for every single person.
Does your the business that is being helped by Access to Work, does that that produces enough money to pay tax?
Absolutely, yes.
Right. So you're making good. The business is going well. You've got a book deal. I mean, that's a great thing.
It's going really well. Yeah.
Great. I read here that Access to Work means that people can apply for a maximum of £69,000 each year to help pay for adjustments. And it says here they do not have to be medically diagnosed with a health condition or disability to be eligible for support. Is that true?
No, it's absolutely true. And one of the reasons that is because all of the waiting lists for support and diagnosis with these conditions are really hard. But
Maddy,
this is why you get assessed. It's not just given out willy-nilly to anybody.
Sorry. How does the... Oh, I've got so many questions. I'm really glad you're here to answer them, actually, because... So there is a system in place. This is, and I'm not having a go at you here, because this is what is in place. There is a system in place called Access to Work for people who are have health conditions. Those health conditions do not have to be medically diagnosed in order for people to access this money.
They don't, no.
Oh, my God. That's a farce, isn't it? Obviously, that's farcical.
Well, it is and it isn't, Tom. Like, I mean, in certain aspects, yes, there are going to be people who do try and mess with the system. And I think this is really hard, and it makes it difficult for people who genuinely have a need to be able to access this help. And this is the whole sickfluencer thing. And you know what? I totally own it. If somebody wants to call me a sickfluencer for helping people to access the support that they need,
but they don't need it. They don't need it because they don't have a diagnosed medical condition.
But self-diagnosis is so valid when it comes to ADHD. Absolutely, and I stand by
valid
that.
By whom? Validated by whom?
Valid for the people who are going through it, Tom. Unless you've got ADHD.
So I say to you now, I've got ADHD, and you will show me how to get this Access to Work scheme, so I can get an Apple Watch and a support worker, because I've made it valid because I said I've got it.
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
I mean,
it's valid because I'm experiencing it.
No, totally, and I get that. But you have to be able to demonstrate how you struggle, and you can't really do that unless you're experiencing it.
Oh, I struggle loads. I can't concentrate. I feel that I'm lack of energy. I just can't be. Some days I can't be bothered. It's such an effort. Can I apply for this?
Not because you can't be bothered, no. But if your executive function is struggling, yeah. The thing is, when you have ADHD, all of these things are actually really quite difficult.
But we don't know you have ADHD. You being one, we don't know one has ADHD if you haven't got a diagnosis.
People understand their own brains, and there's a lot of information out there. This is why I run my TikTok channel. Well, they clearly don't.
Otherwise, they'd know what help to do. Otherwise, they'd know how to manage themselves without the help. If they understood their brains, they wouldn't need the help.
But often they don't, and that's why they need access to things like coaching and support workers.
How long do you think this scheme can continue offering help to people who don't have a medical diagnosis to get them into work before it becomes so expensive that it needs trimming?
I mean, it's already being trimmed. People are getting their grants cut, people are getting their grants removed. And that is due to the press, I think, mainly, giving it a bad name and, actually saying that lots of people are fraudulently making claims. It's something like 1.2% of people who fraudulently make claims.
I want a scheme, Maddy. I want a scheme, Maddy, that exists to help people who need help get to work. I think that's a really important thing and a good.
What this is.
And a good. But it's not for the people who need help, because we don't know that they need help, because this scheme exists for people who don't have a diagnosed health condition. That's not what this scheme was set up for.
It is very, very difficult. There's a 7-year waiting list in most places for people to get an ADHD diagnosis. So what are those people supposed to do during that 7 years? Are they supposed to, carry on being sick, which affects the workplace? Maybe that means that they're going to end up in unemployment, which means that the taxpayer is paying for them in a different way. So there are lots of reasons why, if you are struggling and you are struggling with your, because it's assessed, you can't just rock up and go, oh, by the way, I'm struggling. Like, you have to be able to articulate how you are struggling. And I feel like that's a really important thing to take into consideration.
I've got to leave it for time reasons, Maddy. I would love to do some live sickfluencing, and get you in the studio at some stage and take some calls, because it would be fascinating to hear it. Really appreciate your time.